NRL Fantasy Round 9 is in the books, and what a monster week it was. Huge scores all round. I reckon if you didn't score 1,100, you were below par. I fell a bit below par, so I went over 1,000, but beneath the 1,100 mark, and I dropped some ranks this week. But some of you guys pumped out some huge numbers. I will shout out Jake V as well. So Jake V, he's in first place, 1,232 points he scored this week, which is just huge. Now, tearing into this week's games here, we've got the back end of Magic Round. We're going to work our way forward. Apologies for the delay here too. I was coming back from Magic Round late last night. I'm in the office now and we're tearing into these and we're back to regular programming. So Eli Katoa first, 62 or 72 points here, pumped out a good score. He dropped a bit of cash recently. He'll be bouncing right back up now. Not an option because he doesn't play round 12, but it is an option we can look at going forward. He's a really solid option and the Storm are just flying. So Eli Katoa could be a good one at that 53 average there. The issue for him is he's got that injury he's carrying. I believe it's an MCL strain or something like that he's playing through. So that's the one thing to worry about a bit there. Joey Tarpanay up next, 67 points in 60 minutes. The 60 minutes is the most encouraging part, but the line break definitely helps as well. Yep. For Joey Tarpanay, a lot of us are going to have a lot of cash this week. So Jacob Preston's out for 3 weeks with suspension. We've got Mama Zealous looking like 4 to 6 weeks as well. Corey Horsburgh is going to be out this week with a HIA. So Joey Tarpanay, he's very, very, very expensive, but we have a lot of cash to use, and he covers the buys pretty well. So I might be jumping on him as a resident Kiwi in my middle forward rotation. May Nicholson keeps on pumping out these big scores. It's a really solid base stat performance for him. 63 points, played all the minutes of the game as well. That's really what you're looking for there. Does he keep up those 4-minute games? If he does, you keep him basically indefinitely in your team. Suafair Longo, so great game from him too, but not someone I'm super interested in fantasy. KO Weeks, bit of a bounce back as well. Last couple of weeks, he's been good. He started off really cold, so it could have been a pod you looked at a few weeks ago, but now he'll be too expensive. Tomoko, 57 points here. Up and down, right? We talked about him a few weeks back as a potential pod, but he didn't quite get cheap enough for it, so didn't jump on. Then Tamale turned up with a big score here, grabbed the try in this one, 7 tackle breaks, nearly 200 meters run, basically no negative stats, a solid 52, and his prices just keep rising as well. So that 41 average, we can rely on him at this point. He's getting a lot more attacking ball, and Canberra are winning some pretty tough matchups too. Hudson Young, bit of back to earth. This is very base stats here, 51 points in base. You won't complain about that if you have Huddy Young, but you do want those big attacking games as well. Then Fogarty, solid, sort of saved the score towards the end of this one, but yeah, he was sort of quiet early and did heat up a little bit. Look, the 48 is okay. He had a big score last week, so again, one you can't complain about too much. Jerome Hughes is interesting. So he bounced back a little bit this week, 46 points, had the 2 tackle breaks. We talked about him a bit, and he's been averaging 0.3 tackle breaks this year. The run meters are still a bit low, but the kick meters are very strong. And he was that pure dominant half. I think when the Storm start clicking again, he's going to be a rock solid option that does bounce back. So in round 13, that's when I'll be jumping on Jerome Hughes. Then down the list, Loyero, Horsburgh. Horsburgh had the HIA. Looks like he failed that as well. So he most likely will be out this week. Probably plays Origin as well, but isn't a certainty. So I'm going to think about holding him potentially. I'll see how the team sort of pans out. We do have a lot of red dots this week with the Roosters on a bye as well. Then rolling down the list here, Pappenhausen was solid enough. Hosking, solid enough as well. Just 47 minutes though, so nothing to look at there. Meany, a bit quiet. Blore, Tokamanu, very quiet here. Cam Munster, bounce back to earth here. 120 run meters and 3 tackle breaks there. That's quite encouraging for him. He's gone back-to-back 100 meters plus running the ball, and he didn't have 100 meters plus in the first sort of 7 games of this year. So if you're looking at Cam Munster there, the signs are good, but the attacking stats have kind of dried up here. So I'll stick with him more out of desperation than anything because we have so many red dots this week. But if you have him in your team, I would say he's not a desperate sell. Like, these numbers are improving. He just needs the numbers, like the base numbers and the attacking stats to come together, which we haven't seen so far this year. Then Tommy Starling, very quiet for Starling. The 6 missed tackles for both him and Munster really slowed them down. Down the bottom of the list here, no one's super noteworthy to talk about. Just having to scan through. I mean, Wishart, if you ever got the minutes, would be interesting, but not for now. Keep rolling through here. And that Raiders game, I'm going to do a little brag as well. I did tip the Raiders there in that game, so I'm feeling good. But I tipped the Broncos in this one against the Panthers, so that's where my happiness ends, basically. Now, 3 captain options this week. We always talk about it. It's Terrell May, Payne Haas, Nathan Cleary. I'm guessing that you, like me, got it wrong again. It's been brutal. And normally with captaincy options, you can kind of see a bit of a trend forming. It's like, all right, in this scenario, it's this. In this scenario, it's that. We look for these conditions, blah, blah, blah. it just hasn't really come together so far this year, in my view. Like I haven't really been able to nail down that trend. If you guys do know, if you have a way of picking captains that's working really well this year and you're nailing it 100% of the time, let me know. But I know I've gotten it right, a number of times, but then I've gotten it wrong quite a few times as well. And this is another week where that's happened. So Nathan Cleary, Payne Haas, like you look at this game and you go, right, I just sort of thought the Broncos would get up. Like they're playing at home, Magic Round, a lot of Brisbane fans around. The Panthers really struggled, and the Panthers absolutely destroyed them, 32-8. It was 24-8 at one point. I thought maybe the Broncos would go on a 2023 grand final-esque comeback, but apparently only the Panthers do that one. So, yeah, for Nathan Cleary, 97 points here. It was a combination of the great base stats we've seen, so the 110 run meters, the 600 meters kicked. We added to that some attacking stats as well. So you had the try, the try assist, the line breaks there as well. And he had that replication of the 2023 grand final try too. So attacking stats on top of the base there. This is what Nathan Cleary can do at any given time. And he should definitely be respected as a captaincy option at all times. So that's where Cleary sits. Payne Haas, 88 points here, played the 67 minutes, which is it's very high there for him as well. Again, no negative stats across the board. Had the 38 tackles, 11 tackle breaks, definitely helps. Only the one offload. It was a bit wet during this game, and the 200 meters run. So this is an 88-point game where he didn't really do anything that he can't do again any given week, which is just terrifying. And yeah, I feel rough because I'm normally a Payne Haas captain. I've been pretty loyal with him. I went to Terrell May this week, and I copped that 20-point downgrade on captaincy points there. So really going forward, let me know what your thoughts are on captains, because I'm going to do a bit of study into this and sort of look for some variables that determine these sort of variations in score. But it is very tricky to really identify. And I've heard a lot of theories. I've talked to a lot of people about this. Talked to a lot of you guys about a Magic Round about this week as well, actually, which is really cool meeting a bunch of you. But no one seems to have it nailed down this year. And in previous years, I feel like we've kind of figured it out. This year, it's been pretty tricky. So we'll have a look at next week and we'll have a think about it then. Tommy Jenkins bounced back, and this was one that was talked about a lot on the potty this week, particularly by hold sell. He was at the top of my hold list. I don't know if he was at the top, but he was on the hold list. I think Ponga was at the top of the hold list. But really, it was just a case of keeping the faith. But guys like Jenkins, Rob Toya, Kalen Ponga, like these are all guys I was recommending holding, and we saw why this week. So Ponga scored the 64, Jenkins the 70. Toya went crazy. I didn't start Toya. I didn't start Jenkins. So I was holding them. I make the cash. I didn't start them though. So I can't fully brag about this. But with Tommy Jenkins, I just sort of thought, Brian Toll comes back soon. Like he'll be back in the team. Tommy Jenkins will go maybe back to center, and that edge is going to be really effective. Now, what we saw was Luke Garner step into the center role this week, and Garner effectively execute the draw and pass in a way that we haven't seen so far this year. So, yeah, Tommy Jenkins scored the tries that he really deserves at this stage. Pumped out a big score here, nearly 200 meters run as well. No negative stats, basically, except for that one set restart. So, yeah, across the board, great performance. He's going to make a bunch of cash for us, and we're in a great spot. In fact, that 412K, you love to see that. Now, Paddy Carrigan rolling through, 68 points for him. Look, he plays Origin, all that sort of jazz, so it's not super relevant there. With Jenkins, I will shout out too. We did have that bet, so he has to get to 450K for me to win that bet. He raised 32K this week, so I'm feeling pretty good about it. I think we should be sweet. Luke Garner played well, but wouldn't be someone I'm considering. If he's playing center in round 14, then somehow gets a lock of an edge back row spot. Potentially we think about it, but not super interesting. Patea, maybe during Origin, but they only really play. They don't play around 11. They play around 12. You could think about it. I think there are some better cash out options right now, though, and we're not desperate for cash. Someone Cobbo grabbed the 55, so I jumped on Cobbo this week, just sort of thinking I like his numbers at the fullback spot. The reserve grade numbers were about 8 tackle breaks a game with 200 meters a game. We saw 10 tackle breaks and 223 meters, so that was something that translated across to first grade. What we didn't see was the big attacking stats. So the 55 there included that the line break. The line break had a couple of tackle breaks in it. So, without that, it's sort of a high 40s score for him. So for high 40s in base, mid 40s in base kind of thing, and then attacking stats on top. I'm feeling pretty vindicated with this purchase, but it's just a week where so many other options grabbed all the tries and sort of really popped off. So there was opportunity cost and it didn't work out for me, but I do think Cobbo was a decent buy. Priced at a 32, pumped out this 55. I think he has some big scores in him. And even he's priced at 32. You look at the last year he played on the wing a full year, he averaged 42 that year anyway. So even when he goes back to the wing, he is probably about 10 points of value. So I don't mind the upside swing, but yeah, I can't brag about him when Carraz went so well this week, right? So I've got to be a little bit humble on that one. Then rolling through Reynolds, 51 points, solid. Shibasaki go to 51 there too. Look, cash cow, you jump off when you want to jump off here. Isaiah Yo, pretty stable, nothing too special there. Could think about selling at round 11, could think about keeping. We have so much cash, right? So I might be keeping Isaiah Yo through the origin period. He normally backs up, and I think with the Panthers' position on the ladder, he will back up quite a bit. Piakura grabbed the 50, 35K in increases here. Piakura at 38 tackles. He had the 106 meters run, 2 forced errors as well. So if you're a Piakura truther, he started over Ricky in this game. Now, there's not really anyone coming back anytime soon. So this is not insane. This is not insane to talk about. Like, Piakura actually might be a cheapie we look at this week. He'll be on the cheapie list for sure. It's a question of whether we recommend him. I'll look into it, but the 80 minutes is very encouraging. Like, they weren't missing anyone, and they lost this game, but they didn't pivot off Piakura through the game, right? So I'll think about this one quite a bit this week. Then Benny Hunt, bit of a bounce back. Lindsay Smith, solid without being exceptional. Down the list here, I mean, who you got? Isaac Tungo grabbed the try, but pretty quiet game from him. Isaiah Papali'i, I'll tell you what. I was not impressed by his fantasy score. And being at the game, I didn't really notice him that much. And, this is one where I've been sort of saying for a while, like, hey, put up Isaiah Papali'i on the edge. It'll help your attack. I think in a way, maybe it did. Like, he's a pretty effective decoy. Teams do sort of put numbers on him. I can't really run victory laps on that though, because he wasn't that involved. But we did see Cleary unlocked a bit, so maybe there's a little bit of that in there. Probably not too much. But for Isaiah Papali'i, the 36 points, drop some cash. I thought we might see a bit more out of him. So maybe in future weeks when he gets used to that role, he's got about 3 weeks in the role. He's used one of those weeks already. He might start to get more comfortable and sort of start eating up some more attacking stats. So keep an eye on Isaiah Papali'i is an interesting option, but the time frame just isn't going to work out. And rolling down the list, Dylan Edwards, 27 points. He's been a bit out of form recently and potentially might not make the origin side. There is that potential. Tedesco's been playing such good footy. So Dylan Edwards could be an option that we look at as a bit of a cheaper option in the origin period as well. So he'll drop down. He's dropped 34K this week. He'll drop down into the 500s. I'm pretty confident there. And then if he doesn't make the origin side, we might consider that as well. Jordan Ricky, meh. Leota Mariner, Talangi. Liam Martin, just getting cheaper and cheaper, but he plays origin almost certainly there. Xavier Wilson, only played the 40 minutes, so not great if you did jump on that pod. Corey Peggs, Gaia. Yeah, look, these guys are all guys who shouldn't really be in your team, so we'll move off them. Now, rolling through, we got the Titans and the Dogs, and this is a demolition job. The Doggies got it done. We'll say the scoreline kind of flatters the Titans here. They grabbed a few tries towards the end, but the Dogs sort of did what they wanted in this game without Matty Burton, Tupiner and a few other guys. Admittedly, though, the Titans are missing players as well, but yeah, it was a pretty one-sided game. Jacob Carraz, 102 points. And yeah, pop that story up on Instagram and TikTok there. Just sort of had a vibe. Like, we're having a few drinks at the pub before heading into Magic Round. And I just sort of thought, I reckon Carraz is going to feast today. So I had to chuck it up. I'm seething as a non-owner. I just reckon that origin possibility is so high. I really think it's possible. And seeing the way he combined with Crichton in that game, who would be his edge partner in the origin arena, I still reckon that origin potential is there. I think it's still there. And look, you can jump on Carraz. He's an absolute beast. I'll never talk down his scoring, but that origin potential is real. And if he makes origin, he'll miss round 12, and then he has a bye in round 13. And he made origin again in game 2. He'd miss round 15, and he'd have a bye in round 16. So it'd be 4 out of 5 games he'd miss. That's the only thing that's keeping me off Carraz. But man, that 102 points, I am jealous of those of you who had him in your teams for that one. Then Big Tino, grabbed a big score, but origin coming soon. Jacob Preston, got to talk about this guy here. So Preston hasn't scored below 50 since round 1, where he scored in the 40s, averaging 60. He's basically scoring a very similar profile to Isaiah Yo, 2024, last year. So he's not scoring in the same ways. He's a bit more attacking stat reliant, but the scoring profile and the range of scores, that 50 to 80 kind of bracket, he's playing a lot like Isaiah Yo last year in terms of just raw score outcomes. Now, Jacob Preston might be out for 3 weeks here. That's the downside. He has been charged with a crusher tackle. At this time, he is going to fight that charge. It's a grade 1 charge, so there's no downgrading or 1-2 weeks, any of that sort of thing. Grade 1 charge means that it's either they keep the charge and it goes up to 4 weeks, or they remove the charge completely and go to 0. So one of those two things is going to happen here. I reckon they might be able to fight the Chargers successfully. I don't know. I was really hoping when I looked into it, I was hoping it was like a grade 2 and they could downgrade it. It'd be 1 or 2 weeks instead. He's got a very heavy loading is the issue, but I was hoping that maybe it'd be that because I feel like 3 weeks is too much for the tackle it was. But because it's either hold up or like either the charge is held up or it disappears completely, that makes it a lot harder to downgrade to nothing. So I think Preston might be one we have to deal with this week. We'll know by buy, hold, sell. But if he's out for 3 weeks, there's a little part of me that's saying hold on because he's just been so good. But I think we might have to sell and then buy him back, which I know is painful for a lot of us. Bo Firma grabbed a double in this game, really just continuing that hot form. Rose another 50K here, 68 points. You love to see that. He's just crushing it. Stephen Crichton had a big game, but yeah, it's Origin coming up. Not the time to buy Stephen Crichton. Con Tracy bounced back game as well after a bit of a shocker last week. Fodawaker, Reed Marnie played the 80 minutes. Obviously, Hayward is playing in the halves, so it's a window where Reed will play the 80 minutes, but Burton will come back and it'll sort of ruin those minutes for Reed Marnie via Hayward going to the bench. And down the list here for the Titans, I mean, RCG has been getting cheaper and cheaper. He's at about 400K. He scored that 40 in 65 minutes. I'll keep an eye on him. Because after round 12, they have a decent enough Origin schedule. It's not special, but he could be an option we look at in the middle forwards, around that sort of low 400s area. He's a guy who has pumped out that 40 average in the past. So he's down nice and cheap. Could be an option we think about here. William Kika, bit of a return to the norm for him. So yeah, that 38 is kind of what he can do. And then Max King, I haven't been hot on Max King generally because I think he does have, I bought him last year, right? I fell into this last year and I don't ever forget when I own a player and sort of how they go. And for me last year, Max King, he was solid and he was pumping out those sort of low 50s and, high 50s. And then he sort of dropped in minutes and picked up a bit of a niggling injury and all this other jazz. And what we saw here was 43 minutes. Now, they won the game well, so that would explain the PPM drop, 37 points in 43 minutes. There wasn't as much ball in play, a lot of tries scored, all that sort of jazz. But the minute drop is hard to read into, or hard not to read into, because they were missing Josh Curran, they were missing Tupanua. This is meant to be a game where King played sort of 60-odd minutes. So that's where with Max King, I'm not rushing to buy him, but at round 12, I might think about it at that point. But until then, if you've got him, you stick with him. If you don't, then you don't rush to buy him. Rolling down the list here, Brimson at 28. He's up and down, but he kicked the ball a ton, obviously, because Tom Weaver went down 7 minutes into this game. So Weaver will be out most likely next week as well, which means Brimson may play that dominant half role, or we might see Kieran Foran come back into the team. It could be anything at this stage. Harry Hayes, yeah, he was a bit of a pod talked about by a few people. I saw a few podcasts mentioning him as well. It's not convincing enough in terms of his role. The 28 and 48 minutes is very low PPM for him, though. So you'd expect a bit better than that. So if you do have him, you probably stick with him. But if you don't have him, don't look at him. Then like Hayward, Luca Fida, DeGroot at 25. Yeah, he's been solid enough in base here. And down the bottom of the list here, who else we got? Like Cam Pereira, Chris Randall. Chris Randall, 8 points in 66 minutes is absolutely brutal. Brian Kelly, 8 points in 66 minutes as well. Look, we'll shout this out, right? We'll shout this out. So Brian Kelly, Alofi Cam Pereira, but these types of players, even Marcelo Montoya, they can be interesting if they get to the right price. Like a Brian Kelly, for example, he's a career 500K guy. If he bounces down to 320K or something like that, right? And Jaden Campbell comes back and you think, you know what? I think the Titans are going to get hot. Brian Kelly suddenly becomes an option that's, I don't know if he's at 320K, he's 180K undervalued. And that's just as good as a cheapie, right? Because you want to make that 150K out of a trade. So someone like Brian Kelly can be interesting, but we are so spoiled for options at center. So I probably won't jump on, but it's just worth keeping an eye on these types of players because they can become really relevant. And we've seen that with like Tom Dearden, with Murray Talangi, Jeremiah Nanai, these types of players at the Cowboys who started slow and then heated up. They do become very interesting cash cow options. Now, Tigers and Dragons, and this was a crazy game. Jaden Sewer had an absolute shocker, and he's a gun player too. Like I think Sewer plays Origin this year, but man, that was a moment to forget for him. So I'm sure he'll come out with a vengeance next week and make up for it. But unfortunately, the Dragons lost the game on the back of that drop ball over the try line and then the scoot up to the other end of the field. A real 12-point turnaround there in a game where they lost by 6. Now, Dylan Egan up first, 80 points for him. Grabbed the try, the 40 tackles there. No missed tackles, no errors. He's had no missed tackles most weeks as well. He had the 2 offloads to hand, the 4 tackle breaks, and then had the 80 run meters, which isn't crazy, but just a rock solid base here from a guy who's pumping out great numbers. And on that try, I will say, little pivot he did, little step there. So he sort of changed his line, and we see good back rowers do this. And Egan's a young guy, so I didn't know he had this in his bag. But he sort of changed his line as he was running the line before he got the ball. And you see some of these back rowers do that, and they just score some easy looking tries. And it's really like they're putting the footwork on, they're beating the defender before they get the ball. So if you can watch that again, I might even do a little breakdown on Instagram or something. But if you can watch it again, just go watch that. Like, there's a little shimmy sort of move where he kind of pivots, and it's just a very subtle deception that, as someone who played back row at an extremely low level, I really look up to these guys who can sort of make those kinds of moves because they're awesome to watch. Then Jacob Little, 74 points, grabbed the 2 tries here. I had a bit of money on Little to score in this game, actually, so I was pretty happy with that. Terrell May, 68 points in 76 minutes. The minutes are fantastic. This is a low PPM game for him. Really just a few missed tackles, I guess, but it's hard to pinpoint. No attacking stats there. Like 68 points is fine. It's a week where Payne Haas and Nathan Cleary went off, so you feel like it's a bit lower, but Terrell May's status is still very high. He is 13K short of $1 million in fantasy, so that's pretty interesting. Hamish Stewart, 66, grabbed the try there. Started at lock. I've heard that, Jack DeBellin might have been a bit under the weather this week, so I don't know if Stewart keeps that role, but I will say Stewart played great footy, so maybe he does keep that spot. 48 minutes, so I wouldn't be rushing to buy him, but if you have him in your team, you stick with him. I think he's very startable if he's a starting lock. Then Val Holmes, big game from him. Toby Couchman. Couchman was definitely saved by that Gula injury. So when Gula went off, Couchman got back on and bumped his score up from like a 37 to a 62. Otherwise, he was carrying a bit of a shoulder issue. Didn't look like he was going to come back on, but he did get back on with that other injury. So it's a bit of the Nafahu White, Toby Couchman, like these types of players who sort of get the right injuries at the right time to benefit them. Lockie Hubner. So Couchman definitely boosted up there. But I will say, keep an eye on him next week. That shoulder did look a bit worrisome. The fact that he came back on and played it out when they had other guys on the bench makes me think it's probably nothing to worry about. He just had a few little niggly things, that shoulder, that knee. You just have to be aware of it, right? And react when the time comes. But for now, he's pumping out big numbers, so you stick with him for sure. Seyfarth, big game. Charlie Staines grabbed the 2 tries, came in. Not a guy we're looking at for fantasy whatsoever. Jaden Sewer, solid. Buller, solid. Had the full field try, which definitely boosted his score up. Then 12. I mean, King. Give me a sec. I'm gonna get the pronunciation right here because it's not King Togia. I want to nail this for you guys. I know a lot of our audience actually knows how to pronounce all the names, and I don't want to I don't want to offend anyone or annoy anyone with my white boy pronunciation. So if anyone knows better, let me know. But what I've got here is King Tolnia. So King Tolnia. Anyway, Lake and King Tolnia. So for King Tolnia, really solid game. 47 points. LKT, I might just call him as well. But really solid game. He had the 47 points, had the 2 try assists there, 17 tackles, only 2 misses. 93 meters run, not a lot of kicking though. So Kyle Flanagan took over the majority of the kicking in this game. But for LKT, he looked solid when he had the ball in hand. No tackle breaks, no offloads, any of that sort of thing this week. But I just liked the look of him. And he sort of passed the eye test there. He looked very solid. He looked like he sort of brought the ball up straight. He fed his outside men nicely. I think he'll stay in the team. And I think he wasn't to blame for them losing this game. I don't think Ilias being there would have forced them to win either. So I thought he was fantastic. I expect to see him keep that role. And at 260K, he's a guy I'm looking at very closely. I'll probably be buying him this week. It's a pretty straightforward one. If you cashed out this week to him at 230K, you did well as well. Kyle Flanagan, big boost with the kick meters there, 43 points, minimal attacking stats there as well, a couple of line breaks. But he's an option that if we were desperate, we could go to, but we just have so much cash this year that we don't have to do it. Then down the list here, Galvin, pretty quiet. Taruva, Cook only 48 minutes, which is quite low for him. Luai, again, 32 points. He's just dropping cash week after week after week. At some point, it'll turn around. But, for him, you look at defensive stats here. You got 9 tackles and then -8 in missed tackles. So you're getting 1 point from defense. It's just not enough there in terms of base stats for him. Down the list to Bellin, Coruscant, Gutho, really quiet. Dewey grabbed the try and still only got 29 points. Corey Allen, we're not buying Corey Allen. And down the bottom, Jack Bird, Royce Hunt. These are guys who we thought about at the start of the year. And I will say, Brent Naden went down with injury, but he was on 3 points in 48 minutes, so he's definitely not one that we're targeting. Then we've got the Warriors and the Cowboys, and this is a belter of a game too. Really fun game. But for the Warriors and Cowboys, Metcalf put on a clinic in this game. And again, 162 run meters, the 311 kick meters, and a couple of forced turnovers defensively, 7 tackle breaks here as well. And then in attacking stats, we're looking at 2 tries, a try saver, 5 goals, 2 line breaks, and 2 line break assists. So 93 points for him. Lucky Metcalf, he's up to 637K. His average is up past 50 as well. So that 51.6. Look, if you held him this long, you deserve these big scores because you kept the loyalty with a guy who looked a bit up and down and a bit streaky, but it feels like he's finally sort of feeling really comfortable in that halfback role. So I guess the question becomes, do we target him now? And 637K, he's priced in the high 40s. So if you're targeting him, you're basically saying, I think this guy averages 55. Now, I don't think we need the halves. So I'm looking at round 12. You probably already have 2 halves for round 12. So you can't really use him in round 12. So it's just a pure cash play. So it probably becomes higher than 55. You're probably looking at like 58 that you need him to average to be worthwhile for you. I just don't see it being worthwhile. So if you have him in your team, enjoy the ride. You've done fantastically well. If you don't, you just can't jump on this late. It's too late for you. And Chanel Harris Tavita, big game as well. Scotty Drinkwater, he was high on the buy list this week, and he pumped out a big number here, 68 points. Didn't have a try, but had 3 try assists and plenty of running plays there as well. Kicking the ball a bunch too. So 269 kick meters for him. He's in hot form. He's in red hot form. That averages up to 53.5. But that 3-round average is very, very high right now as well. It's sort of 60 plus there. So yeah, at 705K, there's still time. There's still time. You can probably jump on Drinkwater this week. I'm good with that. Aaron Clark is interesting. So he pumped out 70 minutes in this game, which is pretty surprising. I get the bench was good. Like Sam Healy came on. He's a pure hooker there. We saw Wade Egan get a rest instead. So Aaron Clark played 70 odd minutes. He looked good. Even towards the end of the game, he was running the ball strong. He's now very expensive though. So we're now looking at him at 681K. And at 70 minutes is encouraging. But the issue is when Fisher Harris comes back, he does eat up quite a few minutes. We've seen a few other guys really earn their spot as well. So Halasima, for example, like he's not going to go away. You know, Martin Niokore, he's not going to go away. And he's dealt with a few injuries recently as well. That's probably helped the minutes here too. But yeah, for Clark, I'll say, 40 tackles, 200 meters run, basically no other stats there, 58 points. Very solid, but he is priced in that low 50s area. So that's where I look at Clark and I think, oh, I'm probably not going to jump on. Personally, if you don't have Clark right now, it's probably a bit too late. He was a red hot option when we pushed him a few weeks ago. And even last week when we pushed him, he was a hot option. But I'm going to say my guess is when I do buy, hold, sell this week, I'm probably going to be arguing it's too late. Wait around for someone else. So I give an example. Fisher Harris is going to be 100K cheaper than Aaron Clark. Around that round 12 point. I think Fisher Harris will be due back either this week or next week. So personally, I'd be leaning towards jumping on like a Fisher Harris at 100K cheaper, who I think can average about the same as Aaron Clark, right? So that's where I think like a bit of value targeting is probably the play here, but you can really do anything you like with your team. It's your side. So if you like Clark, then jump on as well. Nanai kept it going. Big score here, 56. Mitch Barnett, solid score, but he probably plays Origin. Maybe. I mean, there are a few players in this game where if I was selecting the Origin side, no, I'll admit I was a few drinks deep at this point, but the Warriors needed, a forward to step up and take a big run a few times. And I felt like Barnett wasn't really that guy. And he's going to be selected at prop for the Blues, right? So you'd want a bit more of that out of him. Like there were a few moments where I just didn't feel like we saw the best of Barnett, like what we've seen in the past. So I wouldn't be that surprised if he wasn't selected for Origin, but the risk of him being selected means he's just not going to be relevant for your fantasy side. Then Murray Talangi kept it going. Big score from him too. He's flying up in cash. He was so cheap a while ago. We should have jumped on him. Tommy Dearden keeps it going as well. Halasima played the 80 minutes in this game, which is very encouraging. It's about 39 minutes last week, so it's been a bit all over the place. Guys like Halasima, Xavier Wilson, like unlimited talent, but just the role was a bit insecure. Ford, 44 minutes for Ford. It just feels like it's all over the place with his minutes as well. Then we got McIntyre, Robson. Wade Egan played only 72 minutes, scored 39. Just no attacking plays from him in this game. Bit of a weird one. Normally he does have a bit more attacking involvement, but they did get the win. So maybe he just felt like he was feeding the hot hand and feeding Luke Metcalf instead. And then we got Bateman, Tamala, Vamaga. Really solid from him, 38 points there. down to Cotter, Clifford. I mean, who else we got to talk about here? Like K-Bob Derby. Derby scored a try and got 30. Purdue with a 29. Yeah, quieter from Purdue. Look, it was a very wet game. Purdue's very fast, but he's very small. So in a wet weather game, he sometimes doesn't pop as much. But on a dry track, Purdue's a must start. And then Nickel Clockstad, be quiet. Clockstar, be quiet. And down the bottom, nothing super relevant to talk about there. So we'll keep rolling through these teams. Now, for the Rabbitohs and the Knights, I will say Knights bounced back. And we talked about it a lot this week. They got all their middle forwards back. It felt a bit inevitable that they were going to have a bit of a better game. They scored 30. I was pumping them up as a 30-plus points this week, big win. I kind of thought they'd score a few more than this, though. And when I was watching this game, I thought, yeah, no, they're going to run up a big score because they're up like 18-0 after about 18 minutes, but just sort of slowed down and didn't continue with what they were doing. The fantasy scores are still good, but only ran to 30 points against a pretty understrength South side. So I'm not as impressed by this game as I thought I was going to be. I sort of thought they'd look a little better than this. Like they looked better than usual. I'm telling you, they're on the up. But I sort of expected a little bit more. I really thought this was going to be a big bounce back, and it was a solid one. Great bounce back for Sharp in particular, but in general, I'll say the Rabbitohs were really under strength as well. So it's hard to read into it too much. Now, for the fantasy scores here, we had Fletcher Sharp, Bradman Best, Jack Cogger, Callum Ponga up the top of the list here for the Knights, and 7 of the top 8 were Newcastle players. Also, shout out, guys. A bunch of you guys did come along to our event. So we did do an event at Magic Round at the Caxton Street Brewing Co., the brewery on Caxton Street. We did an event downstairs there and did a live game, and we were doing try score predictions, footy trivia, all that sort of stuff. Gave out a bunch of beers. That was a cracker of an event too. So I did post a bit of that on social media, on Instagram as well. But thank you for you guys who did come along and who were super fired up as well. I'll definitely chat to you guys later, but it was awesome to see you all there. But yeah, rolling through these games. I mean, Sharp, the 3 tries. Look, nothing's changed for Sharp. Like Sharp can do this. This doesn't change my view of Sharp at all. He is a solid base stats player. 31 tackles here, 2 misses. He had the 100 meters run. The thing is, 3 tries, it definitely pops off the page and nearly 80 points scored. But Sharp doesn't change in my mind whatsoever. Like he's exactly the same buy as he was 2 weeks ago. And this is just one of his up games. Don't react too much to the most recent score. Bradman Best, 70 points. And there's a few of you guys I was talking to about holding Best. So hopefully you did hold on to him. Had the try assist, a line break, 6 tackle breaks here, 200 meters run. This is what Bradman Best can go and do any given week. And he probably doesn't play Origin this year. So I would hold on to him 100% if he was in my side. Then Cogger with a 69, solid bounce back, but I'm not reading into it. Kellen Ponga, the 64, and he was number 1 in our hold list this week. And I'm actually super relieved that he popped off for you guys because when we were doing the podcast, I was sort of talking through it and saying, hold Ponga, hold Ponga, hold Ponga. I was thinking, oh man, if he comes out and scores poorly again, I've led some of you astray. I mean, most of you guys just make your own calls on this stuff, but I was sort of feeling guilty in advance if he came out and had a shocker. Luckily, he pumped out a big number here, 64 points. Had, the goals there, the try saver, but 2 try assists, 2 line break assists here, the 4 tackle breaks, 136 run meters there. Sorry, the 3 tackle breaks, 134 run meters there as well. So yeah, for Ponga, this is fine. Like this is sort of back to regular programming for Kellen Ponga. And if you have him in your team, you stick with him. He's got the Titans and the Eels next too. He's tempting. He's actually really tempting. Like as a non-owner, it's very tempting with those fixtures coming up. Then we got Kalama Matangi here. Beefy score for him. Dylan Lucas, very solid as well. He was one of the buys for this week. Crushed it. Had the try assist, but otherwise it was a very base stat heavy performance. He's pumping out 50 plus in base. So yeah, Lucas is borderline must have. And if you can target him this week, I'll be looking at it for my team 100%. Leo Thompson down the list here, very solid as well. Pierce Paul keeps on pumping out good scores. He's getting a bit expensive now, though. Talis Duncan played in the edge back row spot and got a great score, 56 here. Greggy Marzu, really base stat heavy performance from him, but 10 tackle breaks, 220 run meters. That's what we expect from Marzu. 55 points from him. Gagai, Croker, Arrow, Jacob Safidi all bounce back as well. I will say Jacob Safidi, he's very cheap, 400K. He scored a 51 in 47 minutes. 200 meters run, 26 tackles, not a lot of extra stats there. He's an option you could look at through the Origin period, 100%, and an option you could look at right now as well as a cheaper middle forward. So I've got my eyes on Jacob Safidi pretty firmly here. Campbell Graham is another one for round 13. South Sydney have a great origin schedule after round 12. Scored a 47 in this game. No attacking stats, but did have the 5 tackle breaks, the offloads there as well. It was really solid base performance from him at center. So Campbell Graham probably will come into my team in round 13 at around 480K, I would expect. Isaiah Tass, no interest. Schiller, Ewan Aitken. Aitken played center. I was hoping he'd score a bit lower than this and drop some cash, but he's down to 587K now. So for Ewan Aitken, again, round 13, keep an eye on him. If he plays in the back row, round 13, we'll look at buying him then. Elliott was solid. Sullivan grabbed the 40 as well. Crossland, Frizzell, Hubner grabbed the 35 in 40 minutes. That's kind of what we expect from him when they're close to full strength. Dodd, I wasn't that impressed by Dodd in real life, to be transparent, but it's a solid enough fantasy score. I just don't think he's going to hold that spot. Totola, a bit of a bounce back to earth. And then Marmazelis, obviously, he's got the 4 to 6 week injury. I believe it's an elbow dislocation, hyperextension, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'll give you the updates there, but 4 to 6 weeks is not good. 25 points here. The 9 missed tackles definitely doesn't help that either. So, Marmazelis might end up being a sell if he's out for 4 to 6 weeks. That's just going to be too long to stick with him. Jai Gray did pick up an injury as well in this one, so probably a pretty firm sell if you still have him. And then there's no one else really relevant down that bottom of that list. Now, jumping into the Friday games, and then we'll finish up with sort of a bit of an overall recap. But Rob Toya, 96 points, 2 tries in this game. And Rob Toya, this was a game where he sort of showed what he can do. And when it comes to Rob Toya in this particular game, it's an interesting one. So I think like my read on this, and I'm going to have to sort of review a bit of film this week as well before we do buy, hold, sell, all that sort of thing. But my initial read is being at the game, Sandon Smith went down very early, injured in this game. And I feel like we saw Savala with the ball in his hand quite a bit more. And, obviously Connor Watson was there too. He was around. He was playing a bit of a running half role, but he's not as dominant a half as Sandon Smith is, right? So I think we saw Savala getting a lot more ball, feeding his edge a lot more, and particularly feeding Rob Toya a lot more ball. And what we were seeing was Rob Toya getting a lot of early ball up against Herbie Farmworth, and he was winning a lot of those matchups. So from my perspective, if the Roosters are coached at all and, watch film at all, they're going to see this and they're going to watch this film and they're going to go, hey, let's feed Rob Toya a bit more ball, man. This guy's got some game. He's got some serious game. And as a result of doing that, he had 2 tries in this game, had a try assist, 2 line break assist, 8 tackle breaks, 4 offloads, and nearly 200 meters run. Like, this is an absurd game. And like, is he going to continue to pump out 96 every week? Of course not. Of course not. But his average is now 44 points. He's a guy who hasn't scored that many tries across the aggregate of the season, right? So I look at him and I just go, man, like the sky's the limit. And that's why he's a guy who I'm never really considering selling until the end of the origin period, because he just seems to be getting better and better. And there was that dip though. So I didn't play him in my 17. I'll explain that actually too, because I think it's worth explaining the retro of correct and incorrect decisions that I've made and that you guys have made and all that sort of thing too. So with Rob Toya, the hold was for those reasons I've talked about just then. But the reason I didn't play him in my 17 this week was we have seen those run meters drop off over the last few weeks because Sandon Smith has been very dominant on his edge, and Savala came in for Townsend, and Savala is not as dominant at all compared to Sandon Smith. So the attack was running down Sandon's side. Savala was kind of secondary, and by extension, that meant Rob Toya on his edge was kind of secondary as well. So that was sort of what I was thinking there. I was thinking, he's not going to get as many opportunities. I don't mind the Dolphins matchup, but the opportunities might be a bit sparse. The injury changed that completely. And it's a tough one because we're going to have the bye this week. Sandon will be back for the round 11 game. We then have to reassess at that point whether we start Rob Toya. He feels like a great loophole option to me. That just the up and down nature of his scoring feels like a loophole for me. But I mean, he's going to have to downgrade because they're going to run through Sandon again. But the upgrade will be they've seen what he can do. His confidence is going to be very high. So, yeah, he bumps up a bit, but I wouldn't expect this to be the new norm, particularly in terms of volume of ball. That's the main thing when we're looking at there. Like the attacking stats or whatever, we're looking at volume of ball, and I think that does knock back down more towards a normal number. But this performance will bump it up a decent amount. So let's read into that next week. But you got Toya, you're happy. If you don't have Toya, we'll talk about it this week, whether he's an option to buy, because 500K is pretty cheap. Plays all the major buy rounds. There's a bit of talking about play for Queensland. I think it's all BS, but yeah, we'll look at Toya in more depth this week and next week. Then Tedesco, 85 points, and Teddy is up to 700K. Yeah, man, it's starting to feel like a bit of now or never with Tedesco, and obviously not this week. They have the bye, but next week, now or never. hopefully we know the origin teams by then, because I'll be looking at Teddy pretty closely. Like 271 meters run, 10 tackle breaks, four offloads, bunch of attacking stats here as well. He's pumping out big numbers recently, and those scores have really bounced up the last couple of weeks. Sam Walker will come back soon too. So yeah, I'm liking this version of Tedesco. I'm liking him a lot. He's absolutely killing it. So yeah, Teddy is an option that I'll be looking at after their bye for round 11. Isaiah Katoa, bit of a bounce back game for him too. Look, just very solid base stats all around. Had the try assist there, but 143 meters run, 452 kick meters. You know how that works. Victor Radley, we talked about him as a pod option this week. I'm actually really upset that he scored 2 tries. I was hoping he would go a bit under the radar, score another 40, and not be on anyone's radar. But now that he scored the 2 tries and the 65, I guarantee you everyone's going to be talking about him. Like that's the downside with guys popping off too early. And Vic Bradley will be on the radar there. So Jay Z and I had a good chat about him last week, but yeah, after the buy round, he's an option you can look at the middle forward spot. He's definitely underpriced. The HIA history is not great, but other than that, he is a very interesting option in that lock forward spot. Herbie and Fuyaki, solid enough here as well. Hamaso, solid too. Nafahu White, 53 points in 50 minutes. That minutes has sort of stabilized around that 50-minute mark when they don't have injuries. So that's sort of what you can expect going forward. I would say maybe a 50 and 50 is probably what you'd forecast. Then Saw Wong played nearly the 80 minutes, scored 50 odd. So solid enough. You can live with that. Savala grabbed a 50 in this game, had a lot more ball in his hands. But overall, the difference there is, 24 tackles, 2 misses. He's had 24 tackles, 3 misses in most of his games. So he's sort of playing very defensively consistently. 46 run meters is not that high either, but it's just interesting to see him. Like he was goal kicking in this game, but in a game where he doesn't do that much that pops off the page in terms of fantasy production, he can score 50. So Savala's a guy who you can trust at this point and probably slide into your 17 after their bye as well. Connor Watson played in the halves, so you can't really read into the score too much. I mean, does he sort of make the origin side? Maybe he's not been in the best form recently. I think he probably does make the origin side, but if you held him this long, you might stick with him. But then you got to look at it and you go, all right, you got a lot of red dots this week. All your Roosters players on a buy, all the players we've talked about as well. You might have to get rid of Connor Watson. So have a look at your team. We'll talk about it this week, but it really is team by team there. Noani Tuase grabbed the 45, 2 tries, very solid. And then down the list here, Docker Clay, he bumped back up with the 41. He'll be interesting through the origin period if Watson does get picked, because he's going to have 3 games where he plays at hooker, big minutes, and he seems to pump out like a 60 average in that role. So could be interesting, but probably not for me. Then down the list here, Gilbert, bit of back to normal there. Marshall King, very quiet from him. Lanu, Angus Crichton, since we sold him, he's been a shocker. So he had a really quiet one there. A few errors, 6 missed tackles, not great. Isako, sort of dropping in cash there as well. Could be interesting if you got to the right price, but it's not going to work out with buy schedules, I don't think. And down the bottom here, Sandon Smith, the -2, he dropped 13K. I think you can sell Sandon right now. Like if you've got Sandon in your team, I know he popped off last week, right? I think you can sell him at this stage. I think Savala is playing really well, but Sandon's playing well too. I don't know. If you want to hold him, you can. If you held him last time, you might hold him again. I'd probably sell him if I was you. That's just my personal take. And then last game of the round, we got the Sharks and the Eels. And let's go through this one because McInnes pumped out a big score, 72 points, had the try. Look, he's not an impossibility to pick for Origin. McInnes, he's one of those guys who's always in that conversation. So have a think about that. But overall, he's not a terrible option through the buy period. Like the Sharks have a good buy schedule. You need a middle forward. I don't hate McInnes there. Junior Barlow, pumped out 61 minutes. He has these random games where he has huge fantasy scores. And he's totally irrelevant for a few weeks after that. So I can't trust him. But if you're in a draft league, you could have a look at him for sure. Josh Adokar grabbed the 68 here, had 2 tries. He's been in a bit of form lately, actually. And to be fair, he could be in the origin picture as well with how well he's been playing. But I think the Blues will go for that power running game instead. So I think Adokar might be safe. Nico Hines grabbed the 60 odd here. Again, look, it's a game where he didn't do anything transcendently. He had the 3 try assists, which is really nice to have. But 30 tackles, 4 misses there. No tackle breaks, no offloads, 88 meters run, not a lot of kicking. I don't know. He hasn't had that pop game yet, but he's been pumping out between sort of 55 and 60 every week. So you can live with it as a Nico Hines owner, but you just want that explosion game at some point. Riley Smith, he played nearly 80 minutes in this game, scored 54 points. That was one call I feel like I got right, luckily, this week. So, yeah, 54 points, 57 tackles with the 6 misses there. had an offload, a tackle break, a forced error, a few extra stats to beef that up. But Riley Smith is looking really good as a round 12 hooker. Dylan Brown, bit of a better game, but 53. Moses 50. You're not writing home about these scores. Kale Iro grabbed the try. I think he dropped that ball, by the way, on that put down, but he grabbed the try. Had the 50 points there as well. Braley 50, Nakora 44, Jack Williams. Yeah, the 41 there. It's getting a bit lower now. Geimer was pretty solid in this game, actually. Could have been a nice cash out, but 58 minutes. I'm just not jumping onto that. And then, Walker Trindle, Burns down here. Brad, what's his name? Billy Burns, not Brad Burns. 8 missed tackles, really knocked his score around, but 38 points is pretty solid. Vanilla Blake is one that I thought might grab a try in this game. I'll be true. I thought he might grab a try. And what we saw from Vanilla Blake was 37 points here in a game where we saw no attacking stats, no tackle breaks, no offloads, basically nothing, just meters and tackles. So really uncharacteristic from Vanilla Blake. I got on this week. I'm not regretting it necessarily. I think he'll be a really good option through the Origin period, and the plan has always been to get him for Origin. So I think him and Tarpanay in my middles will be really nice through the Origin period. But this was a terrible game, like 37 points, just nothing at all, no real impact. So a couple bit of a cash loss, 24K, but I'm going to stick with him and sort of keep the faith. If you don't have him though, wait till round 12 because he's going to get a bit cheaper and you'll be able to get him at a discount. Then Ramian, Hazelton, Kafusi, Kautonga, grab the 35. Pretty mediocre sort of stat line here, just not a lot of extras there. Solid work rate. So at center, you can live with it, but I wasn't inspired. Jermaine Hopgood played 36 minutes in this game, which makes no sense to me at all. I do not understand this role for Jermaine Hopgood. I've got no idea what's going on. I'm a big Jermaine Hopgood fan. He's getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And at some point, I'm certain we will buy him. But when he's playing 36 minutes, he's not going to be a buy at that point. Moretti, good PPM, but no minutes there. Yongi, the 32, safe enough. Kennedy, 31, meh. Tuavidi, good PPM, but again, not enough minutes there. And then Penasini just keeps getting cheaper and cheaper. Simonson, bit of back to earth return there as well. Molatalo, again, crashed back to earth a bit too. Samrani, Talakai grabbed the -1. Talakai would be base price at some point. If you ever got to start, that'd be really interesting. But otherwise, not what I'm jumping onto. Okay, guys, that's the list there. So that's the recap. And I think for this week, real key things I want to hammer is 1100 is that sort of baseline there. You've got a lot of injuries. So let me summarize the injuries and suspensions for you. You've got the red dots. Roosters aren't playing. You have Corey Horsburgh likely out for 1 week. We have Mama Zealous likely 4 to 6 weeks. Preston is fighting a charge, either 3 to 4 weeks or 0 if he can win. And we've got a few other guys as well that might be out of the picture too. Hopefully this week you sort of held on to a few of those guys. So Rob Toyer, Tom Jenkins, these types of players, Dylan Egan. Hopefully you stuck with them because they pumped out some big scores. And we'll look at this week as well. I think trying to use minimal trades while making sure you have 18 players is the play. And I say 18 very intentionally because I think a loophole is worth it this week. So I think particularly with those lower end of the bench guys, it's worth having a loophole on them. But otherwise, guys, hopefully it went well. Let me know in the comments what you scored this week, and I'll see you guys on Buy, Hold, Sell this week. Teamless Tuesday live as well at 4 p.m. Peace, guys. Good luck this round.